Hey everybody, this is Perch. So this is one of those, I get a lot of mail with the same question. And this question, so I'm going to kind of combine like, I don't know, a dozen mails over the last, I don't know, couple months. And the mail is basically the same question. It's which is the biggest missed opportunity of a comic book character? And so this is one where in the comment section, you're going to have a lot of ideas, and I'm interested for you to post your ideas. But who's the biggest kind of missed opportunity in a character or a team or whatever? What's the biggest comic book where they could be doing so much more, but they're not? And I think there's a couple obvious answers. Obviously, I think that the entire kind of leap in on the Krakoa era, I think that's an obvious one where there could be more that's done there and made there. But yeah, I think that's not taking the spirit of the question seriously. So I'm talking about what's a character where they're leaving money on the table by not doing more with that character. So I'm going to give a couple different examples. So I'll keep hopping between. So I'm going to give my case for characters that if you had the right pitch, the right art team, the right marketing, you could make a lot of money off of this comic. But by not doing it, you're actually leaving money on the table. You're missing out on an opportunity. So one of those characters, I'm going to start off with Hawkman. So I want to make the case for Hawkman over at DC. So in different hands, Hawkman I think could be a big seller, and I make my proof here is that Hawkman has the tendencies to be a gruff and gritty character. Griff, I should combine gruff and gritty. Griff, a griff character. All right, that needs to be a new Perch word here we use. This character is very griff. I don't know. Stop making fetch happen, Perch. Anyway, Hawkman has the potential to be a DC's Wolverine type character. He's got a past that is filled with kind of various mind shenanigans and kind of mental history things. And I think Hawkman is one of those areas where when they do the character, they get hung up in the wrong things. They're like, well, let's talk about his outer space, kind of cosmic, Thangar. They get caught up in the wrong elements. I think you take Hawkman and you make him a character that's willing to cross the line where necessary. Best there is of what he does. What he does is very nice. Lean away from the space aspect and just really get into the kind of resurrection, willing to be brutal, does what other heroes don't do. I think that you get him to really kind of go after some of DC's most legendary villains. I mean, I think that you could do some big things with Hawkman. So to me, Hawkman is, and the wings, honestly, you start treating it a little bit more like Archangel from the X-Men, where especially when, they had his death persona and when Reminder was writing him in X-Force, you make the character kind of this incredible brawler, kind of tough character, and steer away from kind of the wings and some of those aspects. He obviously has wings, so you can't get away from that, but just make it more about kind of this kind of character is willing to do a lot of DC characters can't. I think that Hawkman is a character that leaves a lot of money on the table. Over in Marvel, I still maintain that Marvel actually has tons of characters that are, I think, underrepresented. I could make the case for Miles Morales. Honestly, I think you could do a lot more with him and make money with it. I think that the character I'm going to go with, though, and I've talked about her before, is Storm. I think Storm has a character with this wonderful background of having powers, not having powers, leading the Morlocks, leading the X-Men, kind of lots of different elements. I think Storm has a ton of potential as a character that just never really gets realized. I think that they always feel like they got to overthink Storm. Like, oh, we got to give her all this kind of stuff. Oh, we got to give her, she's Queen of Mars. She's the most powerful elemental mutant. You don't need to do any of that. In fact, don't do that. Let Storm just have a combo of like, huge Storm. And I think a really pretty amazing things can happen there if you do that. So I think that's one of those characters that for sure has a lot that can go on with it. Kind of back to DC. I think that there's some interesting things. The thing about comic book characters in general is that everyone can be a powerful, interesting, compelling character. The challenge that they have is that they don't often, do it. They don't often actually make those bets and let those characters be everything they can be. You can argue that. I mean, almost. I mean, even in a weird way, Wonder Woman is one of the most underrepresented characters at DC there is, because she has her own title for sure, but they often they like the temptation of that book is like, let's do something with the Amazonian gods and let's make it so that there's a new queen of Themyscira. Let's like all this kind of stuff. Look, I know you liked Game of Thrones. Nobody gives a shit about Nubia and Amazonian politics. It's boring. Don't do it. Let Wonder Woman be a star in her own book. They bend over backwards not to have Wonder Woman be that star. You could, Batman is overrepresented by a mile, but for a lot of the characters in DC, there's tons of upside. I mean, when was the last time we had a true, great Hal Jordan storyline? I use this example with people all the time, and it fits both Marvel and DC. But for the sake of the argument, let's just talk about DC for the moment. Once upon a time, Jeff Loeb, Jim Lee came in and they did Hush for Batman. And Hush as a story wasn't the best. I mean, it really wasn't. The Tommy Elliott and all that kind of stuff, it wasn't a very compelling, interesting tale. But it showcased Batman doing kind of amazing Batman things consistently throughout the entire series. Batman was, it had almost every member of the Rogues Gallery showed up at some point. He did a bunch of, it was a showcase book. What is the version of Hush that's been done for any other DC character ever? Have they ever taken Wonder Woman and done 12 issues where she just, ran through her Rogues Gallery and kind of elevated people? They haven't. Why? The blueprint for doing this stuff is right there. Superman hasn't either. Green Lantern, like Hal Jordan, John Stewart, Aquaman. I can go on and on. I mean, DC keeps trying to make Cyborg happen as a solo title. The blueprint for what you should do with Cyborg is Hush. Do 12 issues of the character kind of traversing the DC universe, tackling various characters. That's what you need to do. Do that. It drives me crazy that they don't do that. And by and large, same thing is true with Marvel. I mentioned Storm, but all these, Luke Cage is a great example. A character that is sitting there on the shelf, not doing much. Namor is probably another great example. There's a lot of characters that have real value, and either they overthink the IP or they just don't execute on it. And that's it happens over and over and over. So I leave the question, I'm going to toss it to you. What characters in the big two or independents, what characters are the least represented, the ones that are the characters that they should do more with and they don't? Let me know in the comments below. Like and subscribe, of course, and thanks for listening.